So this is the continuation of my previous lecture on electrical methods, and in the last lecture we learned the equipotential method, which was under the electrical method, and this is the resistivity method, which is again under electrical methods, and after this we'll be learning the seismic method. So this is the last one under this particular heading. What is there in resistivity method is this is similar to equipotential method, but here instead of potential we deal with resistivity of the material. So every material is going to have some conductivity and some resistivity. Some will have high resistivity, low conductivity, some would have high conductivity, low resistivity. So this all depends upon that, and here we are finding the resistivity of particular materials. The arrangement here also includes two current electrodes, as we saw in the previous one, and current would be forced through them. Instead of such electrodes which were employed in the previous method of equipotential, they were used to find equal potentials. Here we have two potential electrodes which will measure the potential difference between them. Simple, we will be finding the potential difference between these two. And the arrangement of this is called as Venus arrangement, and the distance between them is a by 3, where a is the distance between the two current electrodes. So this divides the entire assembly into 3 equal parts of a by 3, and that a by 3 is equal to d. So we are just calling d as equal to a by 3. The distance between the current electrodes can be varied as and when required, but generally this arrangement is followed. If V is the potential recorded by the potential electrodes, then resistivity rho is given as 2 pi into dV upon I ohm meter, and the resistivity is found using this formula is at depth d. So d is again equal to a by 3. So the resistivity that you get from this formula will be the one at a distance of a by 3 from the top. You can find or you can change the distance between the current electrodes, and then you can find different resistivities at different depths, and from this you will understand where the resistivity changes. If the material below ground is uniform, then resistivity would be of a regular pattern when plotted. But if a rock is encountered which has low conductivity and high resistivity, then the resistance value would be high. So let us say that if this rock has low conductivity, which is generally true because rocks are bad conductors, but the resistance that it will offer to the current would be high. So in such case, this resistivity value that you will get would be high, and a graph which would normally be true for such case would be like this. At depth d3, let's say, you get sudden spike in the resistivity, and you will understand that there is a rock at this particular depth. The next method is seismic method, and the principle of this method is that shocks or explosions within the earth's crust are always accompanied by generation of elastic waves which travel in all the direction from the point or place of shock. In the earthquake chapter that we did, we saw that whenever an earthquake happens, there are a number of waves which are generated, and these waves travel through the surface. In seismic method, the name has derived from the same thing, seismic meaning earthquake. In this method, what we do, instead of a natural earthquake, we produce artificial shocks into our ground, and from those shocks, the waves that are generated through them, we study those waves, the velocity of those waves, and from that we will understand what is the nature of medium that is there under the ground or under the surface. So the concept is that velocity of shock waves through a medium is directly proportional to the nature of the medium, that is what type of ground it is below. These shock waves are generally same as the one which are generated during earthquake, and the formula we had already seen in the previous chapter of earthquake. It is Vp is equal to root of lambda plus 2g upon rho, where lambda is Lamis constant, which is mu e upon 1 plus mu into 1 minus 2 mu. mu is Poisson's ratio, g is shear modulus, rho is density. And this is the velocity of P wave, and the velocity of S wave would be root g upon rho. Alright, so the typical velocities of longitudinal waves in common rocks, it is generally seen that more dense the rock is, more high would be the velocity through it. So we generally know that igneous rocks are of very dense nature. They have a densely packed structure and like finely crystallized structure. So you can see in igneous rocks you will get the velocity to be higher than the ones in metamorphic and sedimentary. In sedimentary it would be least because it will depend on the degree of compaction that has taken place, and generally that compaction is not much. Only in few the degree of compaction is high. Therefore here the velocity will be the least. So when those shock waves are studied through igneous, metamorphic and sedimentary rocks, these are some of the examples, typical examples, and the type of velocity that we will get through these if those shock waves pass through these particular rocks. Now let us come to that method, let us understand it. Let us say that our terrain is made up of two different kinds of soils, or let us say that this is a rock and this is the soil. Definitely the velocity of propagation of that shock wave through the rock and through the soil would be different. Let us assume that the velocity of propagation in rock, that is V2, is greater than V1, which is generally the case. So what we have to do is, we first this is the point of shock or point of application of shock, and from this place we give the shock and there are different waves generated. This is a direct wave which will travel through the surface. These are all the waves which are generated in all directions. So what will happen is, when this first wave hits it here, it will get reflected inside this medium of rock. Second wave again, third wave, fourth wave, and then there will be finally a wave which will hit this rock at a critical angle. And when it hits the rock at the critical angle, it will not travel inside but it will travel at the interface. So this is the refracted wave, and then because of the undulation of the rocks here, again this refracted wave would find a critical angle and go back. Alright, so we employ various geophones. Now geophones are as the word suggests, geo means earth and phones means something which receives or records sound or velocity. So these geophones will record that velocity and the time at which that velocity is first intercepted. Okay, and let's say that this is V1. V1 is the velocity through which the shock wave travels in this medium. This is again V1. This velocity would be V2, which is faster velocity, and this is again V1. Okay, so till this D1, D2, D3, D4, they were all recording V1, but this D5, it will record this wave as well as this wave. Okay, so it is going to record something different or something higher, and you can understand it like let's say that there is a race between this wave and there is a race between this. So wherever they come and meet together, at that location we are going to have some abnormal values. So if we try to plot a graph of time versus distance, then what will happen is, let us say at this distance 1, that is D1, geophone 1, we record a certain time and at a certain distance. So the time which was recorded in this D1, that is this time 1. Then at D2 we record some different time, at D3, D4 and then at D5. But after this D5, all the values will be recorded in lesser time. So it was assumed that the value would have gone in this same manner, but because now the shocks are meeting at all the subsequent points, then the time at which they are recorded would be lesser. And if you are wondering what happens that when it hits this interface at a angle greater than critical angle, then there will be a total internal reflection, correct? And then these waves will again meet together, and thus there will be a lesser time noted. So you can see that at this point we can see that there is an anomaly, and using the formula, that is the time where that anomaly happens, that is Ti. V2 is the velocity of propagation in this rock, V1 is velocity of propagation in this. So Ti divided by 2 into V2 minus V1 upon the root of V2 square minus V1 square, that is going to give you h, that is the depth at which the rock is present. There is one more formula, that let x be the distance at which you are getting that anomaly. So this distance x. So h is half of V2 minus root of V2 minus V1 upon root of V2 plus V1 into x. So using either of these formulas, you can get the depth at which the rock is being intercepted. So this was about the seismic method. So that's it for today's lecture. In the next video lecture, we'll be starting with a new topic. Till then, take care. Thank you.